Hello all, hope this finds you well. Knife's Tale here, bringing you a nice summary of a knife I've done a review on. The review will be linked down below, and if you would kindly like, subscribe, comment, anything that you think I could improve on, anything. My growth has slowed considerably, or stalled out, and I want to see if I can get it going again. So if there's any suggestions or anything that you want to see, I'm or just, hey, you're stupid, do something different. No, just say that. I need a little bit of assistance here, shall we call it. Ah, yes, this is the summary of the Fenrir from Kansept. It is a Greg Schaub. It says it right there. What is that? Sparrow Knife Works. He's a custom maker. Did some interesting stuff. I don't even know if it's Sparrow. Heck knows. I'm sure I probably mentioned it in the proper review, which again, linked down below. Also linked in the description is means for communication if you don't want to just leave a comment and want to offer some different kind of advice or suggestions and stuff. There is a way to contact me down there. Back to the knife. We have a perfectly centered, no play knife from Kansept, in this case, sort of a reverse bolster. So it's more of a liner lock, but I guess it's technically a frame lock, isn't it? Titanium, in this case, it looks like a black wash titanium, and green or not green. No, this is jade or natural G10. This is G10 that technically I don't believe has been colored at all. And a big titanium pocket clip. We've got 3 3/8 blade to this part. I mean, it technically goes over that back there to almost 3 5/8. But the actual cutting edge is about 3 inches, so that's most important. And 7 7/8 overall. It's a pretty medium-sized knife. It feels like a pretty medium-sized knife. It's got a... That is perfectly straight, isn't it? Yes, it's perfectly straight. So that would technically be a clip point harpoon blade. Well, of course, everybody loves the poon. Though I will say, I'm not a super fan of the way this poon has been executed. It's a super slick. That's one of the problems with this knife, but we'll get there in just a second. This one's an S35VN, thumb stud, front flipper actuation, on bearings. Stop pin is well out of the way, nowhere near the actual cutting edge, so you can definitely expand the choil, but I don't know if you're actually going to have to, at least not until there. These plunge grind seems to really only majorly thicken up and back until back here, so you've got a good amount of life on this knife to sharpen up. It's going to start getting shorter. That's definitely one thing it's going to do pretty quickly. Very sort of aggressive, tactical, spear-looking-ish thing. Like, it's not a spear... Well, it's kind of a spear point, almost, but it definitely looks like an arrowhead or a spearhead. It's very tactical and aggressive in that way. And honestly, I'm convinced that this is one of the ways that this knife was designed to be held, because it works, right? It's really, really works for this position. Not so much that position. Even that actually would probably work. It's a little bit awkward, but... the lock bar insert. I mean, it does have a lock bar insert. That is something of relevance. Because that would otherwise be titanium and steel. You don't really want to see that most of the time. Looks like they're Teflon caged bearings. You can see them in there. Yeah. It is slightly contoured. It is rounded. Feels good in the hand. The texture on this thing is pretty minuscule, but it does add a nice feel. And yeah, I guess, I mean, over the titanium, which is pretty slick, it does add a little bit of grip, which is nice. And my thumb is getting ripped apart again. there's a hole in the top part of the lock bar cutout, and I'm not 100% sure what that's there for, personally. But it is there. I don't quite understand that. I just noticed that. Lanyard hole, titanium pocket clip, good tension, but good flex too, so well executed there. It works decently well. Action is pretty smooth and pretty nice. This one is not really all that broken in. I got this knife, but I haven't carried it in. I haven't carried it a ton, just a bit. I did technically actually win this knife from Kansept in one of their Instagram giveaways. So I had considered getting it, but I wasn't 100% sold, and then I went for like a Thanksgiving giveaway a couple years ago or something like that, and I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to turn them down now. S35 code, don't love seeing that on the name, or the name of the, wow. I'm like getting ahead of myself. Don't like seeing the code or the name on the blade, yes. Logo, maker's name's fine. S35 Kansept logo. I like where they put the Kansept logo. It's kind of out of the way. It's not distracting. That's a little more distracting, but that's fine. I don't know if you needed his name and his logo, but you got them both. Stonewash blade, and I do think that's one of the weak points of this knife, because there's a lot of good here. There's a lot of strong, like, it's a good knife, and it's definitely a recommendable knife. It's coming in around 180 bucks, the basic variants of this thing. There is now a budgety variant with a button lock, and of course there are some more premium variants with, like, I mean, there's one with Damascus on it. So, and the Kansept's Damascus, which I think is like a 10CR, VG10, something like that. Damascus. But at its base price point for a titanium frame lock, collab, Kansept knife, everything's good here. The price is good, but it does have a few little hiccups that I think are worth mentioning. One is the sudden angular transition back here. Now, you have more than enough drill here for it to be comfortable, and the angular transition on this one is actually done in a way where it kind of turns into a trigger pull kind of situation, but it could be maybe somewhat uncomfortable for some people. But there is a lot of room up here, so you can pretty much get your finger in there. At least I can. People with big hands are still probably going to have an issue, but I cannot help you. Can't do anything about that. So, the choil is interesting. It's not bad in any way, and it's more comfortable than some knives that have a sudden change in angle, but it is something to be noted. It feels a little bit interesting. The regular position, though, is very good. The regular position on this knife, even the slightly choked up position, very comfortable, very well done, very executed, lots of room. Even if my hands were big and my pinky had to go over here, I'd still feel pretty locked in. So, very well designed and executed handle shape. The real, actual slightly annoyances that I have with this knife are how slick it is. The blade in this stonewash is extremely slick, which makes the harpoon sort of not really provide much stop. Like, I feel like I'm riding up on it if I push into it. I can certainly, if I'm not holding too tight or not pushing too hard, I can certainly get in there, and it does function, and it's fine. But if you just sort of sit your finger in here, it definitely feels like it can ride up and over the harpoon, because it's so slick. Maybe a little bit of jimping would have been nice there, just to give us a little bit of traction. The second issue is the jimping itself on this front flipper. Again, the whole blade is slick, so this is not the great kind of jimping, and it doesn't go all the way around. So the front flipper is, while it is super tall, kind of actually protrudes that in a weird kind of shape. It does, in my opinion, mess with the flow of the rest of the knife. Of course, not open, but it sits pretty tall, so you're not going to have a problem with it. Whether you want to do it side-fingered or dead on, well, see right there, like, dead on. I just slipped off that thing. You want to go a little bit lower on this one. It works. But I could certainly see you pull it out of your pocket and go, oh, yeah, that's just slipped right off. Because it's not really functional jimping. You can kind of get a little traction on it, but it's more just that gratery kind of traction where it's not actually stopping you, it's just slightly grating your finger. Not badly, but it is doing it. So, yeah, front flipper finish. I don't think the button locks actually have the front flipper on them. I think they might just be well, why would they get rid of well, they might have gotten rid of the front flipper. I don't know. I don't have the button locks. They're relatively recently released, right? The other thing is these thumb studs. They themselves are really, really rounded and thick, slick. As you can see, they're not hard steps. They're really rounded. So it is not hard to slip off these suckers. Now, of course, they also do work. With your nail, the meat of your finger is where I have a bit of a problem. Because there's no slope down milled into the scale. Normally when you don't have that, you want to push your finger straight across and come in contact with the steps of the thumb stud, which give you the traction and bite in. This is not doing that. This is, for example, this knife. This knife, you have tall enough thumb studs with hard-ish angles on there that when you just bring it across, it comes into contact even with the top of the thumb stud, and it shoots open. Flicks open. This one, not so much. You just come across, and it doesn't really give you anything to catch onto, and it's very slick. I can get it, kind of. Can I? No, I really can't get a meteor finger reverse flick on this thing going very well. I suppose if I go up behind the thumb stud instead of underneath and sort of push it out a little bit, yeah, I can kind of get it there, but it's awkward feeling. Using the nail's fine. And I don't mind doing that, but it is something to be taken into consideration. These thumb studs are very slick. Like, even the slow roll is not the super... It's not super, satisfying. So everything on the actuation method end of things is a little bit funky, in my opinion. It works, but it could be better. It's a little dry in there, actually. Probably because I haven't had it out recently. But overall, it is a good knife. It is a well-priced knife. It is a very unique and fun design knife, right? It's got its own aesthetic, and I like that. Right? It's definitely sitting as somewhat different from the rest of the pack. I would like to see a variant without the poon and just a bit of jimping all the way along here. I don't know why, I just think that would work. But, the poon is never a bad thing, right? A little bit of poon never hurts. Unless it's going into you, in which case the poon definitely hurts. The poon is a nasty little catch on the way back out. But hopefully that never has to happen with the poon. Overall, the Fenrir is a good knife, and it's a well-priced knife. Reasonably well executed. Most of Kansept's knives are pretty well executed. They do tend to have here and there little design flubs or weirdnesses. Sure. But overall, despite the very slick actuation, it does still work, and it's at a good price. So, yeah. It's also quite comfortable in the hand. Like, ergos are really good because this clip is thick enough that it just sort of becomes part of the handle. It's one of those clips that almost disappears or morphs into the handle itself. Overall, great knife. Could use a few little tweaks. That's my opinion. So I'm going to end the summary here, and it took a little bit longer to get where I wanted to go, but, you know, me talking not well, which is kind of a problem considering me have a YouTube channel, but we'll get past it. I think, probably, maybe. Right. Yeah, that's all for me. Kansept Fenrir. I like it. It's cool. And I will see you guys in the next one, hopefully. I may have driven you away. Probably. Possibly. Hopefully not. See ya!